Hey everybody! So this last weekend, my favorite gaming group got together and we played Adventure Begins, a new D&D easy, fun, fast entry into role-playing board game, and I want to give you my thoughts on it. The first thing I want to do is start off by saying that this is not wholly unique in any way whatsoever. So I don't want you to expect something that is so immensely, in depth and just, involved in a story. Not many traits of the characters are that unique, or their level abilities. There's not much distinction there. Everybody's got a spell, they have a weapon attack, and then they have some sort of special attack. So everyone has those 3 different ways they can attack, possibly more, depending on which card you choose for your character. Each character has a level 1, flip to the backside, a level 2, and the names of their spells, weapons, and other attacks are fun and flavorful and unique, but the same thing happens. 5+ you get a hit, 12+ you get a hit. If you tell a story, it's an 11+. And then if you get a really high roll, usually there's some sort of really cool bonus. And that was kind of standard for everybody. The boards are different colors, but they have the exact same layout. And so every time you move from location to location on one of the boards, it's really the same. There is a distinction that you can get more monsters if you go to the side versus those general quests and challenges, which I'll have to tell you later. I absolutely loved, but we're not there yet. The item cards started feeling very similar. There are only 12, and I think that's probably one of my biggest critiques, is that there just aren't enough items to go around, and there's a little confusion with how to use the item cards. Is it once per location or once per board? The rules say 1, and the card itself says something else. The rule book states it's once per board, which I think is balanced. It's way too overpowered if you get to use your card and refresh it every single location you go to. So use it as the rules state, not as the card states it. The actions that you can do when you're in between locations, in between monster fights and encounters, we leveled up about halfway through the game, which I thought was pretty average. We all got to 5 coins relatively fast, but we fought a whole lot of monsters in the beginning of our game, which gave us the 5 coins to level up. The other ones, drawing an item card or reviving yourself after you're dead, didn't really come into play too often. The reviving, not at all. Our only character who died in the very final mission against the big dragon monster. And so, yeah, he died and that was the end of the story. He didn't get to revive, essentially. Woo, cool story, right? The monsters pretty much function in the same way every time. They have a number of hit points, and you keep track of that hit points with a marker, and when they roll against the players, they roll a d10, and then usually low numbers, they miss. High numbers, they hit. Maybe they hit pretty bad, depending on what kind of creature they are. That's really it. Nothing else distinguishes the monsters from each other, aside from the really cool picture that everybody at the table gets to see, and then go from there and create that impression of the monster they're fighting. The big monsters at the end, we didn't really read their stories, we just kind of picked off of the name and the look of it. We ended up fighting Death Sleep, the green dragon, as our final monster, and it was fine. I mean, it was pretty bad when you got hit pretty hard with high numbers, but other than that, it was just kind of like fighting a super juiced up regular monster, and we were all ready for it. We had items, we had mostly full strength going into it because I was the healer for the team and threw out some healing for everybody. You also get to heal to full strength when you level up, which was great. All of us did that. So generic issues aside, which I'll tell you, the game feels pretty generic D&D and it's super basic. But just push all that to the side. The rest of my video is going to be about how much I loved this game. And really it's about the game facilitating so much fun and excitement and joy and frustration and all the wonderful feelings that comes with playing D&D. And that's just something you have to embrace. And I think this is a perfect way for people young people, entry-level gamers, and families to find their way into this amazing storytelling world of encountering really unique obstacles and how do you find your way through them with creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, and fun storytelling, which totally happens in this game, and fighting monsters. And how do you fight the monster? You do not just fight a monster saying, oh, I slashed my scimitar at it. No, you say, okay, last time my partner, the fighter, he went right before me, he grabbed his ball of yarn and he wrapped it around the talons of the eagle, held it down to a tree, and then I come up with my scimitar and I slice at his ankles. And that's it. You have to build on somebody else's story and add to it what you want to do, and you kind of see the scene before you. And it's just so much fun. So the group I was with, we were just throwing ourselves in wholeheartedly, embracing the fantasy theme, the monsters that we were fighting, our characters and their characteristics that really guided our choices and our storytelling along the way. One of the players at our table had the character traits that they were more of a naturalist and they used their location and things in their location to their advantage. And so she was always paying attention to what was going on and looking at the pictures really carefully just to see like, okay, what could I use? Could I use that hot frying pan full of bacon grease in some way to my advantage? Which she totally did. And I love that. So with the little bits of detail that the game does offer, you have to really go with it. And so that's my biggest suggestion. If you want to have a great time, fully embrace your character. My other piece of advice is don't necessarily think about what character you want to play or who you normally play and just grab one. Don't even think about it. We have set colors in our group, and so I'm green, my husband's yellow, Aaron is red, and Ian is blue. Well, I grabbed green and I found out that I was an elf and a bard. And like the first thing out of my mouth, I mean, this is old school, but the first thing I said was, well, I'm useless. And I just felt like, great, I'm just gonna sing a song of inspiration and then everyone else is gonna have so much fun rolling dice and like, you know, swinging at monsters and stuff. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong because you have 4 choices every time you pick a character. You have 4 different choices of traits and characteristics, kind of like an overall title that leads into a special ability. And so I chose the Peacekeeper. I'm not a Peacekeeper. It's just in the Bard. Oh, these are all just so far down an alley that I just usually don't go down. But it said I was calm, easygoing, and insightful. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a real challenge. This is fun. I'm excited. And then the other thing you get as a character is you get a backpack full of items, and each one of these backpacks is themed. So what happened was I got the choice first and I looked at it and I went, well, I'm a bard and I have lots of song related things and a lot of vocal related things. So I grabbed the entertainer's backpack. Now, the entertainer's backpack has a jester costume, disguise kit, antique bagpipes, and 5 daggers for juggling. This is the perfect backpack to take on a D&D adventure. I honestly can't, I mean, I was so excited after I got my entertainer's backpack, and I looked at all my cards, and I looked at my spell. I had a spell called Hideous Laughter. Are you kidding me? That's so great. That's my spell. I get to cackle at people. And then when I leveled up, it became Vicious Mockery. And so every time I used my spell, I had to recreate my laughter and my vicious voice and my mockery. I had to embody it. And I also had to really act out my theatrical distraction. So every time I wanted to play my super cool ability as the bard, I had to describe how I get the monster's attention using either my surroundings, what I see, or what's in my backpack. You can imagine how fun this can get when I'm trying to distract the monsters by putting on my jester costume, my disguise kit of whatever disguise I want it to be every single time, antique bagpipes, and then 5 daggers for juggling. It's so fun that you never forget when you fail. except for when everybody at the table fails in a whole cycle and we all fail and it's just disastrous and we're just losing, and it's so fun because our stories are just ridiculous. So you just have to finish the story based on whatever you roll. Yeah, it's super straightforward. It's just a d20 and you roll, and if you hit your number or higher, then obviously your success, and then you do certain hit points to the monster. But that doesn't matter. That's the generic stuff. The great thing about this game is that you all tell your own story. Everybody has their own personality type, and you just go with it, and you have a great time also because everybody gets to play the DM in this game, and that's really cool. You pass around a black stand where you perch the card and everybody else can see it, and you can see the back. And there's a little bit of story, a little bit of flavor text. Sometimes there are restrictions where they have a shield against weapons or spells or something like that. And they have hit points on the side, and you just DM for everybody. And then you say, oh, well, what do you do to the creature? And then they tell you, and then they roll their die, and they're either successful or not. And then you get to tell the outcome. And they may not be dead yet, the monster, but then you get to tell stories about what the monster does in return and how it feels and, you know, how it's slowly dying or whatever you want to tell. It's great because everyone gets a chance to be the DM and nobody feels like they have to play nice or they have to, you know, play mean and make everybody sad. The encounters were where I had probably the best time. These were little stories that gave you situations, and you had to figure out as a team or individually answers or setups to riddles, circumstances with barreling pickle carts, running into strangers in the woods and how you treat them and how you react to them. I think my favorite had something to do with humming, and when you hear your friends hum, you're on a new level with them when you hear them do things like that, and it's so delightful. So for me, the really, really fun thing was the encounters and just the creativity. I mean, we ran into fog at one point, and all of us came up with these super cool ways of trying to get through the fog. And of course, some of us were successful or not based on just what the DM at the time rolled. And that's great. Like, who knows if you're successful going into it? You're like, this is my plan. I'm gonna use echolocation with my bells on my juggler's outfit, which is what I did. And I got through! I made it through the fog! My final verdict is, great game. You have to put into it what you want to get out of it. And that's really all role-playing ever has been. And so it's probably a lesson that we all know, but it's a super game introducing people to role-playing, to D&D, to this wonderful magical story world that just encourages people of all ages. All of us were in 40s-ish age, and we were all having so much fun just sitting around the table. We laughed and screamed so many times playing this game that our friend's youngest child ran up to the table from his bedroom on 3 different occasions to find out what had happened to our story and our adventure. Even kids are running up going, what are you adults doing that is just like making you have so much fun? I guarantee it. I am going to be sharing Adventure Begins with gaming groups at my colleges here in the area, the college I teach at right now. They are going to love it. And I hope you love it too.